Peter, you've been in the room for negotiations with many countries on trade. Which do you name as the least flexible, the least likely that you'll reach a deal on?
Not my lane, sir. I leave that up to Bob Lighthizer and the president. What I can tell you is this, unequivocally. In the absence of President Trump basically having a tough stand on trade, of setting the standard that trade must be free, fair, and reciprocal, we would not have countries talking to us in earnest like they're talking to us now. And that's the beauty of the Trump trade strategy. I mean, sometimes it creates a little volatility on the stock markets because the president takes rightly strong trade positions. But as you see today, these are the fruits of that strategy. And again, if you're a market investor, I think what you should see is a bullish move towards a structural realignment of a global economy, more towards the kind of free trade, free and fair trade that will make everybody prosper, rather than kind of what we've had, where there's just a bunch of cheaters in the world getting rich at the expense of American workers.
Peter, I guess whether it's bullish or not in the big picture might depend on whether other trade deals can follow a template like this, where incremental changes to the terms with a longtime ally leads to an agreement, as opposed to going to somebody like China, which you said, your starting point is they've been ripping us and American workers off for a long time. How do you get from there to any kind of an agreement?
Well, let's be clear. This isn't the first one, South Korea. The first, NAFTA. We've been able to successfully negotiate a deal in principle with Mexico. That's very important. We have a $70 billion trade deficit with Mexico, and a lot of the harm that Mexico has been doing under NAFTA has really hurt our auto industry and our manufacturing industries. We've got a deal in place that's really good for both countries, where it'll allow Mexico and the U.S. working together to recapture the supply chain for the auto industry and other manufacturing industries. So check that box. We have South Korea now. We're talking to the Europeans. We're talking to the Japanese. And we're in arguably a trade dispute with China that needed to start long ago, because since China got into the World Trade Organization back in 2001, they have been engaging in unfair trade practices, which they promised not to do when they joined that. So again, the point is that we're doing great with renegotiating NAFTA, the Korea deal. We're talking to the Europeans, moving forward there. So that's bullish for the markets.
Are you talking to the Chinese? Are you talking to the Chinese, Peter? I think there was a little worry today that the Chinese are not going to come to the table under this kind of pressure, whether it's through the policies of tariffs or the tough rhetoric. It's not in good faith.
I think you should be cautious at this point, taking your cues from what's reported in the press. I think that there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. Our position is really simple. We're happy to listen to the Chinese whenever they want to talk. The Chinese are well aware of the problems which we've raised. Ambassador Lighthizer, in a fine report, 400-page report, outlined all the unfair trade practices that China does in just one space, the intellectual property space. In my own office, we've published a report on Chinese economic aggression. The National Security Strategy in December 2017 called China out for its predatory practices and economic aggression. We'd love to have China come into the world of free, fair, and reciprocal trade and behave in a way where other trading partners of the world behave.
But are your negotiation tactics working? I mean, you said not to believe what I read in the press. So tell us, what are the Chinese telling you? What is their response? And when are you going to pick up talks again?
It's not my lane to talk directly to the Chinese. We have one United States trade representative. That's Bob Lighthizer. And I never get in the way of Bob Lighthizer because he's tougher and smarter than I am when it comes to sitting down across the table from whoever it is. So have Bob on and talk that. But I think what you're really asking is, are we trying to move towards some kind of deal with China or whatever? All I'm saying is that we're listening. They know what needs to be done. The challenge, of course, is that they engage in so many egregious practices that it's difficult, far more difficult to get a deal with China than it would be with Mexico. And there it is. But but at the end of the day, if we can get a structural realignment of the global economy where all players that we trade with engage in free, fair, and reciprocal trade, and we have balanced trade, that's a global economy that'll prosper for the next 50 years.
Peter, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on the South Korea deal today.
Congratulations to the president.